You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. What a beautiful day in the coffee shop. And I'm looking for a book on a table. There's a book. And the title of the book is The Promise. And the author's name is Michelle Vernal. How you doing today, Michelle?
I'm great, thank you, Jessie, and thank you for having me.
I love having guests in the coffee shop. Now you've got to tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, this book is a story about Isabel, who's she's a young woman who's just come back from her overseas excursion, which is quite a big thing that us Kiwis like to do, except that Isabel's left England and she's been to Australia and New Zealand for hers. And when she gets back to the UK, she finds life hasn't stood still and she just doesn't really fit anymore. But while she was in New Zealand, just before she left, she came across an accident and there was a woman who she went to tend to who was dying. And her dying wish was, she said to Isabel that she wanted her to make her a promise, that she needed to tell Ginny that she was sorry. And Isabel, she tries to move on from this promise that she's made. She didn't know this woman, but she can't. And when she gets back to the UK, she sets about trying to fulfill this promise, and it takes her over to the Isle of Wight. And then we meet Constance, who is an elderly woman, and the story unfolds from there. And Isabel fulfills her promise, and in doing so, finds a place that she feels she can belong.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. And what genre is it?
It is women's fiction. It's written with humour, but it does have a serious theme running through it.
Oh, what's that?
It's to do with adoption, and that was something I wanted to write about because I'm adopted. So I felt that I could write from the heart, but it's not my story as such. It is a totally fictional story. But it has affected Isabel, and she decides throughout the story that she wants to find her birth mother, so it comes to that. But it also delves into a lady called Molly Downer on the Isle of Wight, and she was the last witch on the Isle of Wight, and that was back in the 1800s. And when I found my birth mother, I also found out that my birth family is distantly related to Molly Downer, who was this last witch, and I knew I had to write a story set on the Isle of Wight when I found that out, and so that was why I chose that location, and probably why I came to that theme as well.
Well, personally, I think adoption is the best gift you can ever give anyone, is to adopt a child. And I also think it's amazing that you included such a personal story in that way. I'm not sure I would have had the courage to write about something so personal, even though you did write a fictional story. Just that can be a challenging thing to do. I
think it can be. And I remember actually as a child, and I was on the debate team at primary school, and we had to write something. I decided we could choose what topic we wanted to write on, and I thought I would write about being adopted. And when it came to it, I couldn't actually do it. And I didn't know why, because it wasn't something I ever felt insecure about, because I've got the most fabulous birth parents. So I never felt insecure about it, but I just found I couldn't talk about it without getting all choked up, and that was as a kid. But writing this story, perhaps because it wasn't my own personal story, but I definitely put things in that I'd felt as a child, or I I did sort of write from the heart with it. I hope it's made it a much stronger story.
If there was one thing people should take away from that story of the underlying theme of adoption in your novel, what would you want them to take away?
I think that everybody's story is different, and everybody's story is personal. And what you decide to do, whether you decide to find your birth family, because it doesn't always have a happy ending when people do decide to go down that route. But for me, it has, and I think I'm really, really lucky because I've got one set of adoptive parents who are, well, they're my mum and dad, and then I have a birth family, this whole wonderful extended family who actually live in the UK, and I'm here in New Zealand. So yeah, I think I'm very fortunate, and I think I just want people to have a understanding that adoption, it can be a really wonderful thing for both the parents and the child. Basically, just that it can be a really wonderful thing, and that sometimes, you can have two sets. You don't have to have just one set of family. You can have more than that, and yeah, it can be wonderful.
Well, I actually in some ways have more than one set of family, because while I've never been adopted, I never knew my father. My parents were divorced, and I basically chose an elderly gentleman who was a friend of the family to stand in that role for me most of my life. And I've basically picked out people who are like sisters or brothers to me. So since all my biological family's passed on now, it's kind of like I still have a family, because I have all these people that I treat like family and that I adore and that I wouldn't know what to do without. But adoption is a much more serious version, but much more special.
Yeah, I think it's that concept of blood. You don't have to be blood to be family.
No, you don't. And I don't think, I wish more people would understand that, because so many times I hear people say, well, they're not family. Well, yes, they are. And as a military spouse, I've met men and women over the years that were like sisters to me. I lived down the street with them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then they move, and then we see each other 6 years later at another military base, and we pick up like nothing ever. We never spent a day apart. And so in that way, being a military spouse is like having yet even another family. So I think the fact that you don't, the theme that you don't have to be blood to be family is a very important thing. I'm glad you had the courage to write about it. Now, how did you come up with the main character name of Isabel?
I actually put it out on my Facebook page for name suggestions for my new book for the main character, and Isabel was one that I liked because I like being able to abbreviate names. So she's also called Izzy. Her mother calls her Izzy. She calls her Belle. And it's just a lovely old-fashioned name, and it suited the character.
I'm always curious how writers come up with names, because I'm not that creative.
Well, in the past, I have Google searched most popular names from whatever era I'm trying to come up with, and usually you find a name that just resonates. It's a bit like when you have children and you've got to come up with a name.
Naming the cats was hard enough. I can't imagine naming a child. So how long... Oh, what were you saying?
I was going to say it was particularly hard naming our children because I've got 2 boys and my husband went to a boys' school. So every name I came up with, there was someone at school that he could remember, and there was no way that we were going to call our son that name. But we got there in the end.
Well, that's good. How long did it take you to write The Promise?
It probably took me, all up, I would say it would be a year. The first draft usually takes about 6 months, and then the editing, and then the rewriting, and the rewriting, and the rewriting, and then, finally the finished product after about a year.
Now, with your editing, do you use a professional editor, or do you have critique partners? How do you do your editing? Because I'm something of a book fan, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this show, and I can always tell when something's well edited.
I've been lucky in as much that I've got this wonderful agent called Vicky Marsden, and I send her through my first draft, and she's fabulous. She's honest, and she gets back to me and says, well, look, this isn't working, I'm not feeling this, and The Promise actually went through quite a big overhaul. She came up with a lot of the suggestions for that, And at the end of it, when I stepped away, when I first get those revisions and I look at them and I think, well, I might as well write another story because, it's changing this, it's changing that. But when you step away from the book and you think about it, you can see that, yes, that makes sense, and perhaps I do need to tweak that and change that. And I find it quite easy to take constructive criticism from somebody like Vicky, that she knows what she's talking about. She's got lots of experience, and I think, well, it can only make me a stronger writer to take it on board and to make those changes. So, yeah, The Promise was rewritten with a lot of her suggestions, especially with it's written in 3 parts, and that was initially her suggestion to make it flow better, and it really did flow better once I'd done that. So, yeah, thank you, Vicky.
And you said she's your agent?
Mm-hmm. She is, and Vicky and I go way back because 10 years ago when I wrote my first book, I sent it off to Penguin in New Zealand, and Vicky was working for them at the time, and she really liked the book, and she was looking forward to taking things further. And then she left Penguin and went to HarperCollins in New Zealand, and Penguin decided not to follow through with the book. And then Vicky at HarperCollins, she couldn't take the book because they had too many writers already in my genre signed up. But she kept in touch with me, and she eventually, I think HarperCollins in New Zealand, they restructured, and Vicky decided to go out on her own as a literary agent and contacted me and said, would I be interested in signing with her, which I did. And so she's followed me through for the last 10 years. And my fourth book, The Traveller's Daughter, Vicky had a lot of input with that as well, and that one she secured me a traditional publishing deal with HarperCollins, and my follow-up book, Sweet Home Summer. But The Promise I decided to self-publish because I wanted to enter it into the Amazon UK Storytellers competition, and the only way you can do that is if you indie publish between the set dates. So that's why I decided to go that way with that one.
I was just about to ask, so if you're traditionally published as well, what made you decide to self-publish this? So was the self-publishing process harder because you now had to find the cover and everything else, or did Becky help you with all these bits and pieces as well?
It's not. I don't find it harder. In fact, it's a funny thing because you visualise everything in your own mind as to how the book's going to look and what sort of cover, and so I really enjoy that process of actually finding a designer and finding the cover and being able to do my own marketing. Maybe I'm a bit of a control freak like that, I don't know, but I really enjoy it. Whereas with the traditional 2 deals I had, it was a UK imprint of HarperCollins, Harper Impulse, which is fabulous, and it was great to see what they did with the books. But there's quite a big time gap between books coming out, and I had quite a few readers saying to me, well, when's your next book coming out? When's your next book coming out? And The Promise had been sitting there ready to go, and decided, right, well, this storyteller competition's running, I might as well just go for it. So the self-publishing process I don't find hard. I think the hardest part is that everything, if you're going to do it right, you've got to do it professionally, and that costs. You've got to get your book professionally edited, you've got to get the cover designed, the proofing, all that sort of thing. It all adds up, but hopefully the payoff is that you produce a good book, a great book that people will want to buy, and that's what I hope I've done.
I think it's fantastic that you make the point that if you want to self-publish and you want your book to look good and essentially look like a respectable book that people will want to purchase and be of high quality, that you have to pay for certain services. You're not going to get everything you need to publish a quality book for free.
No, definitely not.
I mean, you can use their tools for making covers and things with Amazon, but how good is that book cover going to be?
Well, I think I'm not a graphic designer, and I would never try to be. And so to have somebody that does do that for a job, it definitely does make a difference. It sits right up there with anything that's traditionally published. And I think these days there's not really that crossover point so much, not with people like Bella Andre and people who've indie published, and they produce a high quality book that is on a par with anything that's traditionally published. There's no reason for it not to be. It's just a different inroad into publishing.
So are you working when is your next traditionally published book coming out?
I'm not sure. I've with the promise, I've got high hopes for the Amazon Storyteller competition, and that has a fabulous prize of a contract with Amazon and their publishing house. And I'm working on a new book which is called This Old House, and this book's actually going to be set in New Zealand, and it's going to be set in Christchurch amongst in an old earthquake-damaged house, which is something we've got first-hand experience of in Christchurch. And I'm going to be pitching it at the New Zealand Romance Writers Conference, and my agent will be pitching it as well. So at the moment there is nothing in the pipeline, and if nothing did come in the pipeline, I would be more than happy to indie publish as well.
Now, you said you enjoyed both the experiences of traditional and self-published, and I think it's fantastic that you got to experience both.
I think I'm lucky, yeah, and I think with traditional publishing, it's something that a lot of writers aspire to, because it feels like it gives you the kudos to say, well, I'm actually a writer because I'm published by so-and-so. And you definitely do get a level of respect amongst other people when you say that you've been, your book's been picked up by, say, HarperCollins, and you've got a traditional deal, and it just gives you a level of respect, I think, with your writing. But having said that, the indie side of things gives you so much freedom, and yeah, it's great to have a bit of a taster from both sides.
Now, editing, they always say, is slaying your darlings. Was there one thing you had to take out or drastic or change about this manuscript that you really didn't want to, but you had to move the story forward?
Well, the start of this book was completely different originally, completely different. It actually started off with an audition. Isabel liked singing, and she went for an audition, but her voice failed her, and that was sort of the start of the book. And now the start of the book is, and this came initially from an idea I read in a magazine. It was written by different people's experiences of being around death. Sounds a bit grim, but it was one lady had written about coming across an accident when she was a young woman and how it had affected her. That had lodged in my brain, and when my agent sort of said, look, I'm not really feeling this book, I said, well, I had another idea of how it could perhaps start with Isabel being a backpacker in New Zealand and coming across this accident and how it affects her and how she deals with it. So I had to pretty much rewrite the whole half of the book, and while I knew it was going to make it a much better story, it is heartbreaking when you've spent weeks and weeks and months putting something together and then you just have to hit delete, and it never gets any easier. But when you're finished and you read back on what you've written and realise how much stronger the new story is, it kind of makes it worthwhile.
Now, did you really delete that audition scene, or did you maybe save it to put up as a blog post later for your fans or something like that?
No, it's gone. It's gone. And it really wasn't. At the time, I thought it was good, but looking back on it, I'm quite glad I don't have to look back on it now, and I'm glad it's gone. So, yeah, the audition scene is no more.
Okay. I've heard of writers keeping those outtakes, so to speak. If they were part of the character's backstory that could be interesting later or something.
I think the story changed too much to keep it, but yeah, I can kind of see that sometimes those little outtakes could make snappy little blog posts, or because it's horrible when you spend all that time and you have to delete. But it's always, I feel you're always learning, and that it's just part of getting stronger. You sometimes just have to say goodbye to those bits you've laboured over and learn from it.
What was your favorite part of the self-publishing process? I mean, was there one part that just you really enjoyed? Was it picking out the cover, the fact that you got to pick out the cover? What was your most favorite part of the self-pub process compared to the traditional route?
The cover. Definitely the cover, because you really do form a picture in your own mind of how it's going to look. And yeah, so to visually see it is great. That was definitely my favourite part.
Was that the point at which you felt the book was real and actually going to be published? When you saw the cover take shape and, well, you knew it was going to be published, but is that the point the book just started to...
It becomes real, I think, when you see the cover. And it does. It becomes real, and it's just really exciting and really thrilling, and can't wait to sort of share it and get reader feedback and see what people think. And with the traditionally published book, they do take your ideas and do their best to put them into the cover, but they also have, they know what they're doing as well, and they have a theme that they like to use for their books, so you don't have as much control, but it's still pretty exciting when you open that email from your publishing for the first time and see the cover that they've designed. So yeah, the cover's always my favourite.
Unfortunately, there is more to writing than a cover reveal. What is the one thing that really challenged you while you were writing this story?
I think it's to keep it moving, because the word count in all of my books is around 100,000. And when you first start writing and you've got 100 words, I've got to get this to that. And I don't draft out paragraphs like some people do. I'm very much write a chapter, go back, edit it, and that editing process will then stretch it out into probably 2 chapters, and I work my way through like that. But at the beginning, it's pretty overwhelming to think how many words you have to get to the end, and I always feel like I just can't do this. There's always a point in the book where I think, look, I just can't do this, and then I do it, and that's the amazing bit when you get to the end and you think, wow, I've written a book, and it never changes that feeling of when you get to the end and you've written a whole book. It's pretty amazing.
So is the end part of your 2 favorite words?
I would say so, because I think my favourite process with writing is when I've written that first draft. I find the first draft quite hard, but when I've written that first draft and then I can go back and do the first edit, I love that bit when I'm playing around with the words and tidying it all up and making sure it's all flowing. That's the bit I love. The first draft I find really, really hard, but it's worth it because then I get to do the nice stuff after that.
Do you write every day, or do you write every week, or how do you go about structuring your time to make sure you get those words out?
I'm fortunate in as much that I write full time. So I've got 2 boys, and I have a window from about 9 through till 3, which is my writing time. And some days I can get an awful lot done in that time, and other days it's amazing because I can sit there and I'll produce a paragraph and I think, gee, but you'll make up for it the next day when you get on a good flow. So yeah, structure-wise I am lucky, and I would write every day, and when I'm right in the middle of a book, it's a 7-day thing. I find it very hard to step away from it. It keeps drawing you back. You get to the end.
What advice would you give to those writers out there who are not yet published?
That is easy. I would say just don't give up. Don't ever give up, because I think each rejection, if you receive a constructive rejection and you look at what's been said and you take it on board, it's only going to make you a stronger writer, and you do get stronger as you go, and you learn through each book. You learn, and the one thing I've really learned is there's no such thing as an end goal with writing. It's lots of little successes. It can be that first review where somebody's just totally loved your book, or it can be getting that first traditional publishing deal. But there's no end goal, because from there you've got to keep moving forward. So it's just achieving lots of little goals and giving yourself a pat on the back when you reach those little goals, because there are a lot of rejections along the way. And you've got to learn to take on board what you need to take on board and move away from what you don't need to take on board. But don't give up.
I think that sounds like a fantastic advice. And we have reached the point in the show where it is time to pay those radio station bills. So, Michelle, I am going to pour you a fresh cup of coffee, and I'll see you on the other side of these radio station commercials.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Thank you for hanging in there with us while we paid those radio station bills. And yes, Michelle Vernal is still here with me, and we are still discussing her book, The Promise. Now, Michelle, you've mentioned at least one other book. How many books do you have out there in the world?
I've got 5 other books that are published, and they're all on Amazon and all the other ebook platforms. And my last book, Sweet Home Summer, which was published through HarperCollins, is actually going to be available for sale in the New Zealand bookstores as of the 1st of August, which is very, very exciting.
Oh, that is fantastic. So you actually get to walk into your local bookstore and buy a copy of your book if you want.
Mm-hmm. And we've already organised that we're going to go, me and my husband and the boys, we're going to go and take as many shelfies as we possibly can, because, yeah, it is really exciting.
A lot of U.S. writers get that experience, but I'm not sure all authors understand that for a New Zealander, that's a really special thing, because not all books make it onto the bookshelf, especially in another country. In the U.S., we're blessed, but I've been told that for New Zealanders, that can be a real rarity.
It is, and it's getting harder. It's quite common now for New Zealand authors to be published overseas, and with HarperCollins, I was published with Harper Impulse, which is a division of their publishing house, and they're UK based. So you're quite removed from it in New Zealand, and it's difficult as well, because you're not networking with the other authors that are over in the UK. you're always, I mean, you can be in touch online, but you can't physically go along to different events and things like that. So it's amazing that HarperCollins have brought it into New Zealand and are distributing it through the shops here. It's going to be great, because that's what I was talking about with your little dreams achieved along the way and your goals. And so to see it on the bookshelves in New Zealand, it's one of those big goals. It's getting a big and yeah, very exciting.
And when will it be available in New Zealand?
As of the 30th of July. So, 6 days' time? Yeah, 6 days' time.
Oh, that is fantastic. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Now, what was was there a hesitation about, did you have any hesitations about self-publishing?
I think I did with having had that traditional deal with HarperCollins, and then to go back to self-publishing. But like I said, I felt there was too long a gap between the books coming out, and the storyteller competition was something that I really wanted to enter. And once I sort of got my head around that, perhaps I've built up enough of an established audience now, and to get this book out there was probably more important. And I mean, to get another contract could take months, it could take years, and then when you do get that contract, that book's not going to come out for another 6 months to a year. So the time gap was getting longer and longer and longer, and I just thought, no, I need to put something out now, which I've done.
And then in a week's time, you'll be able to walk in the bookstore and see your book on the bookshelf in your country, which that's amazing. So
yeah, it is. It is going to be very exciting.
So your self-published and your traditional published book will be out at the same time, and you're going to be able to cross one of those major goals off your checklist. What an exciting time for you!
It is really. It's going to be a really, really busy month, August coming up, because the promise is out there, and I'm doing my best with my marketing and that sort of thing. With that's keeping me very busy, and then the book Sweet Home Summer is on the New Zealand shelves, and then I'm going up to the Romance Writers Conference for the first time in being held in New Zealand in Auckland in mid-August. So yeah, it's going to be a really busy month. It's going to be a very exciting month, and it's kind of nice because we are right in the middle of winter, so it's helping those grey days pass quicker.
Now, you mentioned the New Zealand earthquakes and the challenges of being a writer in New Zealand. Have a lot of New Zealand writers written quake-related stories, or have some of them shied away from it?
I think there's probably quite a few factual account stories, and I know there was a children's book that came out not long after, which was sort of designed. It was a fictional story called Quakey Cat, and it was given out free at my son's school at the time, and it was just to help kids with their anxiety around those earthquakes. We were slightly out of Christchurch when they were happening, and while we were still sort of, we still felt them and everything, we weren't living in amongst what was going on every day. So it was something that I felt I didn't really want to write about for a long time. But with the new book I'm working on, it's centering around an earthquake-damaged house, which is also something we read about a lot in the papers, because there's been a lot of people over here that have had awful insurance wrangling and just living in these broken homes. So I wanted to write something about the house. I didn't feel I could write. I didn't want to write about anybody that was seriously injured or perhaps died in the earthquakes, because I just think those stories are still so raw and personal. But I felt like a house I could write about, centre it as this broken house being fixed, while my main character's dealing with things that are going on in her own life, which is a little bit broken. So the house is sort of the setting for the story.
That sounds like a fantastic analogy for fixing a life and fixing a house all at the same time. It really does. And you said you haven't decided if this one will be self or traditional?
Well, I think I'm hoping traditional, but it would have to be the right kind of traditional. I think always hoping for the right kind of traditional. So yeah, I would like for this one to be traditionally published, for the fact that I think to get it into the bookshops and things like that would be fantastic. But indie publishing, like I've said, is something I really, really enjoy doing. So I never rule that out.
Well, I'm sure if another contract with HarperCollins comes along, you'll be looking into it.
I think we're lucky these days too that there are so many more options. We're not just pigeonholed into one track. You can do both, and yeah, I think we're very fortunate.
And I don't think self-publishing has the stigma it used to when it was just vanity press.
I think there's too many successful people for it to have that stigma. I think there's far too many people who've done really, really well. I think the stigma comes from perhaps not treating it as, like we were talking about before, where it's so important to set about it professionally and to treat it, what you're doing professionally, and you do have to put some financial outlay into it if you want to produce a quality product, as you would in any business, and it's treating it like a business. So I think that's where that stigma sometimes comes from. If anybody just pops anything up there and a quick old cover and that sort of thing, well, you're not doing the best that you can possibly do.
Would that be one of your advice to people who are interested in self-publishing, is to treat it like a business and like a professional endeavor?
Definitely. And I've learnt, because my other 3 books prior to the traditional contract, they were indie published, and so I've learnt with each one what not to do and what to do, and you get a bit better at it. And there's so much information online and resources available if you're thinking of doing indie publishing or going down that track that can help you, put the best possible book you can write out there.
So when will you hear about this competition?
Well, it closes off on the 31st of August, and then it is based on, Amazon has their own competition reviewers that'll be going through the books that are entered, but it's also based on readers' reviews, sales, so it always comes down to how important those readers' reviews are, and they are so hard to get sometimes. It's like hen's teeth. So, every review that you can get on your book is gold, and they're going to go a long way with this competition. So if you do read the promise, if you are able to leave a review, that would be fabulous.
I think leaving reviews is one thing that authors always want. They always want that review, especially if you love the book.
Oh, we want to hear. We want to hear if you've enjoyed it. I mean, to receive a review for your book that says, yes, I've enjoyed it, well, that's why you write, to get that feedback from readers that they've enjoyed something you've written. Well, it's the biggest pat on the back that there is.
Now, you mentioned, you said the promise is a standalone, correct?
It is at the moment, yeah, it does. It has I only write happy ever afters, so it does have a happy ending, but it has the possibility of 2 other spin-off stories with 2 of the characters. So I've got another story forming in my head for the second book, but I just thought, well, I need to see if readers want to read more, and so far it's been a yes. So I'm thinking I would very much like it to make it into a trilogy.
A trilogy, wow. Now, you mentioned that Isabella gets a happily ever after. Would she be the main character, or would you focus on different characters for all 3 books?
Well, what I'm thinking I might do is, in the first book, Isabel decides that she would like to find her birth family, but it doesn't go any further than that. So the second book, I would like to perhaps write a story around the birth mother's story, about how she came to give Isabel up and where she's at in her life now. And then the third book would flow on from there, but there's also a character in the promise who has a son, Rodri, he's the main male character in the book. He has a son that he's never met, and so the third book could be, I'm thinking I would like to write it around that, but all the characters would be reintroduced. So it's all very hazy at the moment, but I'm thinking that's what I'd like to do with it.
That actually doesn't sound too hazy to me. Sounds like I just had an author plot a book on air.
Well, maybe I need to do more of that, Jessie, because, it helps clarify things.
Well, there's always ways to record yourself talking. So, but I think that's a first. An author plotting a sequel right on air. I think that's a first. Thank you.
Could be. Thank you.
Now, when you sit down to write, do you have everything really plotted out, or do you just have a basic outline? How much of this do you actually know before you sit down?
I usually have a basic outline. I start with an idea, and it's just a thread of an idea. And So I don't always have a starting point, and in the end I just have to start somewhere, and so I start. And how I write is I'll write a paragraph and I'll read back on that paragraph and edit it and change it around and expand it, and that paragraph grows into a chapter. And where that chapter finishes is where the story will go next. And I have a basic idea for what I want to come up in the next few chapters, but it's very organic. It definitely, my writing grows as I write, and quite often it can be a write-off course and things happen that just were not in the original plans, but tie in with the story. And I think that's one of the things I really love about writing is the surprises that happen and how a book actually comes to life in your mind when you're writing it, and the people come to life, and they're real people whose lives often just veer off course. And it isn't planned, and that's quite special in that sort of.
So your characters do run away with your stories from time to time?
Oh, they do. They're very naughty. They go off and do their own thing. In The Promise, Isabel goes and she sings in a karaoke, and that wasn't.
Well, that's cool that your characters do that, though. I think it's fun to find these little surprise nuggets. Now, with your first book, with the other book, the traditionally published one, whose title escapes me because I don't have it written down.
Sweet Home Summer.
Sweet Home Summer. What was the hardest part about the editing for that? Was there that one thing you had to take out or give up or change?
No, I think that book, again, it's never a quick process. The editing, the initial story gets changed so much throughout the editing. And what happened with that book was there was interest shown in it through another publishing house, and they suggested quite a few changes, which I did. And then when I was with the other HarperCollins, when it got to the point where we were to the editing with them, after they'd accepted it for publication and everything, they wanted changes, which kind of contradicted the changes the other publishing house had wanted. And so it's quite interesting, and I think that's one thing that I've learned as well, is that it's not gospel what changes you need to make in a book. If you really feel something needs to stay in there, well, trust your instincts, because you'll get conflicting advice. I mean, I've been told over the years that people don't want to read books set in New Zealand, and then I've been told that people you should write books set in New Zealand because people want to learn more about New Zealand. And I've been told that, you've got to set them in exotic locations, and then it's just constantly conflicting advice. So basically, you've just got to write the book that you want to write, listen to those editing changes that are suggested, and work with them to the best that you can, but trust your instinct as well, because I think you know your book the best.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So was the editing process for Sweet Home Summer a lot different than The Promise? Yes
and no, because with The Promise, it was my agent Vicky that sort of had made suggestions, and so it was only just coming from her. But those suggestions, they did make sense to me, and I could see what she was getting at, and I do have a stronger book for having listened and made those changes. But with Sweet Home Summer, I think because it went through two different lots of editing, it was quite an arduous process to actually get it to publication, and quite a long process from when it was finished to when it actually got into print. I think the editing was probably harder on Sweet Home Summer, but we got there in the end, and look, it's in the shops as of August, so well worth it.
And I'm sure you'll actually be buying a copy right out of the store just because you can.
I certainly will, yeah. And I will be that random woman flitting through bookshops throughout Christchurch with her camera taking selfies.
So if any of my listeners in Christchurch, New Zealand, and I actually have a few out there, see someone taking pictures in the romance section of the bookshop, it might be Michelle. Say hi.
Yeah, do say hi.
So what's been the most fun publicity thing you've done for The Promise compared to the traditional, where you didn't have control?
I've actually discovered BookBub ads, and I mean, it's not a fun thing that I'm doing personally, but I found something that actually seems to work really, really well, and that's been exciting, actually, watching the click-through rates on the advert. So that's kind of what I mean with a bit of control when it comes to the marketing. You can play around until you find what's actually getting your book seen and visible, and it's really quite fun, and it is exciting seeing how many people are clicking on your book and what countries and that side of things. Publicity wise, it's still very, very early, but it's going on a blog tour in the UK on August the 4th, and I actually had one of those people on that blog tour. She direct messaged me on Twitter yesterday just to give me in advance that she had really enjoyed the story, which was so lovely to hear, because it's always a bit nerve-wracking when you're waiting for those reviews to come in as to how your book's going to be received. And I've got two lovely readers in America, Linda and Michelle, and they are incredible. Every time I put a book out, they're right there, they read it, they review it, and they're pretty honest too. Like, you know, Linda's told me which of my books she prefers and why and things like that. But this last book, they both said, has been their absolute favourite. So waiting for those first reviews is pretty amazing. And when they're good, it is really amazing.
How long has your book been out?
I released it on the 15th of July.
Oh, so it is just learning to crawl.
The new book, baby.
Yep. And yes, folks, I am not being rude. Books are considered babies by their authors. Right, Michelle?
Yep, they sure are.
Because it takes more than 9 months to give birth to it and raise it. And when you've done the editing, you have to turn it out in the world and let it stand on its own 2 feet. Or at least on its own words.
Yeah, you do. And you can't control what comes next. And that is a bit like kids.
So when you're not writing, what are some of your favorite hobbies and activities?
Reading. I love reading, and I like going to... We've been a bit culture deprived in Christchurch for quite a long time post-earthquakes, but everything's starting to reopen, and I'm really, really enjoying seeing the city coming back to life and going along to the different things that are held. We have the World Buskers Festival in Christchurch, which is pretty cool, and that was in February. So we've been going along to anything and everything that's sort of been held, which has been great. Also love travelling. I love travelling. We've done some pretty big trips with our two boys over the years. When they were just little fellas, one was 2 and the other was 4. We flew from Christchurch into Chile, and we backpacked across Chile and through Argentina and into Uruguay with our backpacks and our strollers and our kids, and that was just an amazing time. Fantastic trip. We've been lucky enough, we did another trip as well over to Europe and went to France, and we went to Greece, and we went to a little place in Crete called Alunda, which I set one of my other books, being Shirley. But in Alunda, I actually met my birth mother for the first time, because she flew over from the UK and came and we stayed in the same little sleepy village for a week, connected for the first time, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, I love travelling. I also love wine, I love chocolate, I love food. I go to the gym, but that's not really up there as one of my favourite things. It's more a necessity. Yeah.
I haven't met a writer yet who didn't like chocolate or coffee. So I do have to ask, and I should have asked this one earlier. I usually ask it closer to the commercial break, but what is your favorite coffee shop treat?
Caramel slice. Anything with that thick condensed milk, gooey caramel. I love caramels. Caramel slice and a flat white.
Sounds delicious. All right. Is there anything you'd like to bring up that I haven't mentioned?
No, I think we've covered a lot, actually. I mean, we've talked about all sorts. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
All right. I have one final question for you, and that would be to give out your social media contact information.
Well, I have a website, which is www.michellevernalbooks.com, and I am pretty prolific on my Facebook page, it's facebook.com Michelle Vernal Novelist.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much for joining me in the coffee shop. Now we've reached my favorite part of the show, where I get to pour myself a fresh cup of coffee and snatch that copy of The Promise off the table and settle down with a great book. And I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.